Squad is a realistic military shooter that makes a player advance slowly through each map and count each bullet. The game's deep tactics and great community of experienced players will guarantee fun for anyone who's up to the fight. It's developed by Off-World Industries, who were previously known for Project Reality, a mod formed on Battlefield 2's Refractor engine. The weakest part of this game has to be the graphics. The weapons in the game are a couple of years back in terms of textures and coloring. The metallic part of the weaponry looks unpolished and almost unfinished. The weapons also didn't seem to have the correct wear and tear on them for the situation. The gloves that the characters wear look pretty decent, however. The environments aren't visually impressive. The maps mostly consist of average-looking trees and foliage, and of some last-minute crafted building here and there. Most of the buildings are roughly textured, just to stand out a little from the rest of the objects on the map, which aren't much to begin with. On the other hand, weapons are fully animated. The recoil is seen and felt, and the magazine swapping is done nicely. Casings flying out of the chamber are missing, but that isn't as big of a deal considering most of the time you won't be focusing on that exact part of the weapon. Character models seem a little out of date, and this comes from an avid Arma 3 player. The smoke effects are adequate, but the smoke does travel through objects. The most surprising part is that there isn't a big visual difference between the high and epic graphic settings in the game, and they are 1 GB of video memory apart. There is no explanation given as to what you get when using the epic graphical option. For instance, the medium graphics quickly exchange the outdated graphics to something along the lines of Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Squad is a multiplayer-only title. The servers can take up to 72 players at a time, but it isn't recommended to play in the most populated ones due to performance problems. After choosing a side of the conflict, you have to join a squad, in which you will have the option to pick a role, if it hasn't already been taken, and go into battle. Gameplay consists of certain objectives being taken and held by your team, and the elimination of the enemy. It's a pretty standard formula, and some might consider it boring, but this isn't where the game excels. You'll spend most of your time running around trying to protect yourself from hostiles you can't see. This is one of the few games where sound is more important than sight. If you let the enemy get the drop on you without being spotted, then you have to focus on pinpointing the direction from which the weapon was fired. As I had a 7.1 virtual surround sound headset strapped onto my head, getting the smallest cue for the location of the enemy was vital. Was the fire coming from the left or the right? From the back, or was the enemy positioned right in front of me? I did also spend a fair amount of time exploring where the bullets were landing on the ground next to me, because the trajectory that a bullet came from could help me identify where the enemy had set up. You don't get as diverse a choice of weapons as I would like to see in a game of this genre. Most of the time you'll be bringing along a simple AK-47 that doesn't even have a scope, which I consider a must for spotting the enemy. Vehicles are desperately needed in this game, however they haven't been added at this point. The maps aren't small, and running around on foot with stamina that drains in a couple of minutes is horrible. Sometimes, figuring out who the enemy is becomes an issue. Usually there should be a name pop up on each friendly unit, but the last time I played there were still issues with that, and some friendlies were handled like enemies. In fast response, I'd sometimes take down one of my own men. The HUD is very minimalistic, containing only the essentials such as a compass, a small health bar to show your current condition, and the stamina bar to indicate how much energy you have left. The map must be brought up with a separate key. There's also no ammunition meter, leaving it up to the player to remember how many bullets are left in your magazine. Communicating extensively with your squad is the best and only way to play this game. When I first jumped into a match, I had my microphone turned off, which became a giant mistake when I saw an enemy creeping up on us from the north, and had no way to relay the information. In a game where it's very hard to spot an enemy in the distance, it's best to keep in constant communication with your team. Squad's audio still needs work. Movement sounds normal, but I had a problem with the bullets, especially when they were hitting a wall. It's almost like getting shot at with paintball ammunition rather than an actual bullet. Sitting there behind cover and hearing the same soft crack next to you almost makes you want to take your headset off, as it gets monotonous. There's no real kick behind a bullet trying to penetrate a concrete wall. If I had to explain it better, it almost seems like the bullet would flick off the wall rather than make any serious impact. For a game based on realism, this is a serious issue. Weapon sounds are almost identical as well, with absolutely no sound difference between the different primary weapons. Early access titles often don't have good performance, since most of them haven't reached the optimization stage. However, with an i5-4460, GTX 980 Ti, and 16GB of RAM, I only got over 40 frames per second most of the time on epic settings, which require more than 4GB of video memory available. Unfortunately, changing the resolution and graphical settings didn't do much to improve my performance. Squad is currently available on Steam Early Access for $40. Thanks for watching, KeenGamers. Like and subscribe for more reviews, let's plays, and weekly giveaways. And be sure to check us out at KeenGamer.com for all of the latest gaming news. Stay keen, KeenGamers.